Nehemiah 7 from the Net Bible. When the wall had been rebuilt, and I had positioned the doors, and the gatekeepers, the singers, and the Levites had been appointed, I then put in charge over Jerusalem my brother Hanani and Hananiah, the chief of the citadel. For he was a faithful man, and feared God more than many do. I said to them, the gates of Jerusalem must not be opened in the early morning until those who are standing guard close the doors and lock them. Position residents of Jerusalem as guards, some at their guard stations and some near their homes. Now the city was spread out and large, and there were not a lot of people in it. At that time, houses had not been rebuilt. My God placed it on my heart to gather the leaders, the officials, and the ordinary people so they could be enrolled on the basis of genealogy. I found the genealogical records of those who had formerly returned. Here is what I found written in that record. These are the people of the province who returned from the captivity of the exiles, whom King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had forced into exile. They returned to Jerusalem and to Judah, each to his own city. They came with Zerubbabel, Jeshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Rehemiah, Nahamani, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispereth, Bigvai, Nehum, and Baana. The number of Israelite men was as follows. The descendants of Parosh, 2,172. The descendants of Shephatiah, 372. The descendants of Arah, 652. The descendants of Pahath Moab, from the line of Jeshua and Joab, 2,818. The descendants of Elam, 1,254. The descendants of Zatu, 845. The descendants of Zacchai, 760. The descendants of Benui, 648. The descendants of Bebai, 628. The descendants of Azgad, 2,322. The descendants of Adonikam, 667. The descendants of Bigvai, 2,067. The descendants of Adin, 655. The descendants of Ater, through Hezekiah, 98. The descendants of Hashem, 328. The descendants of Bezai, 324. The descendants of Hariph, 112. The descendants of Gibeon, 95. The men of Bethlehem and Netophah, 188. The men of Anathoth, 128. The men of the family of Asmaveth, 42. The men of Kiriath Jearim, Kephirah and Beeroth, 743. The men of Ramah and Geba, 621. The men of Michmash, 122. The men of Bethel and Ai, 123. The men of the other Nebo, 52. The descendants of the other Elam, 1,254. The descendants of Harim, 320. The descendants of Jericho, 345. The descendants of Lod, Hadid and Ono, 721. The descendants of Seneah, 3,930. The priests, the descendants of Jediah through the family of Jeshua, 973. The descendants of Immer, 1,052. The descendants of Pashua, 1,247. The descendants of Harim, 1,017. The Levites the descendants of Jeshua through Kadmiel through the line of Hodaviah, 74. The singers, the descendants of Asaph, 148. The gatekeepers, the descendants of Shallum, the descendants of Ater, the descendants of Talmon, the descendants of Akub, the descendants of Hatita, and the descendants of Shobai, 138. The temple servants, the descendants of Zihar, the descendants of Hashufar, the descendants of Tabaoth, the descendants of Keros, the descendants of Sia, the descendants of Padan, the descendants of Lebana, the descendants of Hagabar, the descendants of Shalmai, the descendants of Hanan, the descendants of Giddel, the descendants of Gehar, the descendants of Reahiah, the descendants of Rezin, the descendants of Nekoda, the descendants of Gazam, the descendants of Uzzar, the descendants of Paseah, the descendants of Besai, the descendants of Meumim, the descendants of Nephusim, the descendants of Bakbuk, the descendants of Hakufar, the descendants of Harher, the descendants of Basluth, the descendants of Mahida, the descendants of Harsha, the descendants of Barkos, the descendants of Sisera, the descendants of Timar, the descendants of Neziah, the descendants of Hatipha, the descendants of the servants of Solomon, the descendants of Sotai, the descendants of Sophereth, the descendants of Perida, the descendants of Jaala, the descendants of Darkon, the descendants of Giddel, the descendants of Shephatiah, the descendants of Hatil, the descendants of Pokereth Hazabaim, and the descendants of Amon. All the temple servants, and the descendants of the servants of Solomon, 392. These were the ones who came up from Tel Melah, Tel Harsha, Kerub, Adon, and Immer, although they were unable to certify their family connection or their ancestry as to whether they were really from Israel. The descendants of Deliah, the descendants of Tobiah, and the descendants of Nekoda, 642. And from among the priests, the descendants of Hobiah, the descendants of Hakkoz, and the descendants of Barzillai, who had married a woman from the daughters of Barzillai the Gileadite and was called by that name. They searched for their records in the genealogical materials, but none were found. They were therefore excluded from the priesthood. The governor instructed them not to eat any of the sacred food until there was a priest who could consult the Urim and Thummim. The entire group numbered 42,360, not counting their 7,337 male and female servants. They also had 245 male and female singers. They had 736 horses, 245 mules, 435 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. Some of the family leaders contributed to the work. The governor contributed to the treasury 1,000 gold drachmas, 50 bowls, and 530 priestly garments. Some of the family leaders gave to the project treasury 20,000 gold drachmas and 2,200 silver minas. What the rest of the people gave amounted to 20,000 gold drachmas, 2,000 silver minas, and 67 priestly garments. The priests, the Levites, the gatekeepers, the singers, some of the people, the temple servants, and all the rest of Israel lived in their cities. The people respond to the reading of the law. When the 7th month arrived, and the Israelites were settled in their cities,